This is John McEntee here from the Fantasy Files, and I'm here with Nasty Ronnie from Nasty Savage, and of course, got a killer, panel of guests here. We got Steve, of course, from Rock Fantasy. Got Alex Books here from Immolation. We got Denny here from Aggression. We got Mike Browning. I think it's our first time for Mike Browning, so it's great to have him here from Nocturnus AD and Nocturnus and Morbid Angel back in the day too on my favorite release. Got Ed Farshtey here, who was on our show with Hallows Eve and just a longtime friend. And then we got Steve Levin here. Used to play with Primeval for a while and also used to work at Rock Fantasy. So it's good to have all you guys here. Fucking
Awesome.
metal.
Great to be with everybody.
I guess I'll just kind of start off by saying that, Nasty Savage, it was a big band for me for back in the day. I mean, when I was a young metaler, that first album really crushed my brain. So it's definitely something that's been an influence on me. And actually, it's actually been a really big influence on it. I think the death metal scene in general, a lot of people might not even realize that. So I hope to get into a little bit of that today. But I guess let's just start off the show. Maybe Alex could say a little bit about, let's do this. I'm sorry. Let's first ask Ronnie, what are you up to?
Well, guys, it's cool that people still regard Nasty Savage as a band from the 80s who, had an impact on the industry and bands. It's really cool that music can stand the test of time because
Absolutely.
When you record it, you only have one chance to do that take, and once it's done, it's done forever. You can't go back and change it. But so I've been we're going on like 35 years or something. Nasty Savage. We actually have a gig coming up April 3rd, Tampa, the Brass Mug, and the mayhem's going to go down again, man. I'm almost 60 years old, but you know what? I'm more fired up now than ever because you never know when it could be your last time. So tonight I was at a baseball game with my son, high school baseball. He was on the mound and he started pitching and he pitched 5 innings, shutout innings. And
Wow.
We ended up losing the game, but the guys came in and gave up a couple of runs. But it was a good game. And, family is so important, to do that. And so I try to keep busy with supporting family. And then I have a business, Born to Ride. It's a motorcycle magazine. And a TV show I've been doing for 25 years. This week is actually my 1300th TV episode.
Wow.
Just came back from Bike Week. So, it just never ends. I do 2 radio shows a week. One of them's on a platform called Choppertown, and they actually have 2.6 million followers. And the guy's a content, he's in the content. So I'm able to put my TV show on Choppertown now and kind of go internationally on Facebook, and he's got 2.6 million followers. So getting like 100,000 views, 200,000 views to my show. Speaking of that, if anybody out there really serious about putting on a metal show, I would like to maybe co-produce that and put it on Choppertown platform because it's really not only a motorcycle platform. He looks for all types of content. And I really think we could give justice to the metal world, the past and the future and the present of some guys just like you guys putting together, but just got to be committed and serious. And we could put it together. I could talk to you guys at another time about this.
Sure.
We could feature bands and, the only thing we can't do probably is play a lot of music because of the copyright stuff with Facebook.
Yeah.
But, I'm a producer, man. I produce, like I said, 1,300 TV shows, 2 radio shows every week we do live on Facebook. And we have another one. And then we do 2 magazines every month. So, and then Nasty Savage. And then I like to go out and pick and go to toy shows and flea markets. I know Mike, I always see him at the toy shows. And he's got some cool stuff. So, you just got to keep busy. And I guess that's what I've been doing, man, as time flies by,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to go with Alex. I know Alex is a huge Nasty Savage fan, and I'm sure he has some questions for you. So let's just start off with Alex.
First I just want to say thank you, Ronnie, for all the amazing music that you guys have done over the years. And for me, the first Nasty Savage record is, for me, it's one of the greatest heavy metal records ever. It's a perfect record. And, my old guitar player is the one, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, is the one that introduced me to the band. And I remember he used to cover Gladiator. He used to play that riff all the time and stuff. And I just got, completely, obsessed with the band early on. And, and then I remember getting like Indulgence, when that came out and stuff. And that was just like next level. That was just much more extreme record, I thought. And it just, the band's been a huge influence on me. And, my old bandmate too, Chris from my old band and stuff, both of us were just like huge Nasty Savage fans. And, also Dave and Ben as a guitar player, just huge influence on me, their guitar playing. I always consider them one of the greatest guitar duos, without a doubt.
Those harmonies rule.
And, I guess the question I would have for you is, when you guys were putting the band together, what was was there like a specific concept? I think I got lost here somehow.
We can hear you, but we can't see.
Was there a specific concept behind putting the band together, even as far as like the imagery, like, those old photos I remember seeing of the the Gladiator mask and stuff or whatever they used to wear, and and just the sound and also the imagery. Was there like a concept behind it, like when you guys were first putting it together, like we're going to be like this, or was it just something natural that it happened?
Well, it was really weird because I always kind of wanted to be a singer or in a band, and I had the look, and I started going to concerts more, and we went to Atlanta to see Judas Priest headline, and it was Whitesnake, and then the opening act was Iron Maiden on the Killers tour.
Wow.
So Paul Di'Anno was still there, and and then we saw the Plasmatics, in Gainesville, and it was just I was into it, and I really started getting into the new wave of heavy metal from England, and I was getting all the 12-inch and 7-inches, so I was into it. But then I used to have a rock box in my room, and I would sing over another singer, and I'd let my friends hear it, and they go, "Hey, we know this band that needs a singer." So I'm like, "Shit, let me try out." And I was with my wife at the time, Debbie. I was going out with her in her Pinto, and I said, "Hold on, pull over to this house. I'm going to try it to be a singer. I'm going to try it in a band." And I went in there. I was nervous as hell, and it was Fred, Ben, and Craig Huffman was the drummer. And I went in there and I sang like Rothschild 3 times because that's the only song I really knew. And then I left, and I never heard back from the guys. I'm like, well, so then I saw them at a keg party, and I go, "Hey, man, do you guys want me to be your singer or not?" And they go, "Yeah." I go, "I'll be over Monday with a game plan." They're like, "Really?" I go, "I'll be over Monday with a game plan." So I go over Monday, and it's a big kind of band house. All these guys are kind of hanging out, and people are in there smoking and hanging. I go, "Everybody out except the band." They're like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I go, "Everybody out except the band." And they go, "Oh, okay, he's pretty serious." So I go, "Y'all sit down." And it was just those guys and me. And I said, "This is the deal. The name of the band is Nasty Savage. I'm going to be Nasty Ronnie, the wildest singer ever." I said, "We're going to put our money together. We're going to create a demo tape called Wage of Mayhem." And they're like, I go, "We're going to save our money, and then we're going to have about 4 songs on it only, and we're going to sell it, but within 1 year, we're going to be signed. We're going to be getting fan mail from all over the world, and we're going to be touring." And those guys bought into it. And I wasn't a singer. I just played one on stage, man. But I knew that if I was going to be the singer, I better come up with something, because I had to bring it, not only with marketing and promotion. That's what I am. I'm a marketing promotion guy. So I got the band going, but Fred, the bass player, and David and Ben, before David came in, so it was just Fred and Ben. They were into the music, and they were, really putting some cool stuff together. And then later on, just after that, before we did the demo, we ended up got David Austin in the band, and then we switched over and got Curtis Beeson as the drummer. So we had this the nucleus of the band together. But Fred, he was kind of even scary to David and Ben because he really knew all the shit about music and theory. And sometimes if you don't know all that, which I don't, it kind of intimidates you, you know. But Fred was like this genius dude, man, and he really did help that first album get that groove. And then David throws his stuff in, you know, his Uli Roth style, and you know, his cool ass off the wall. And then Ben with his, and then Curtis. You know, that was that first album, and I've got to hand it all to those guys. You know, they would write the music, and then I would come up with these lyrics. You know, Ben wrote a couple. Ben wrote Gladiator, but you know, those guys came up with that sound. I just went along with it and added my shit to it. And so they're really, you know, then the image and all that. I figured, hell, if I'm going to be in a band, and you guys know this, when you have the stage, you better own that stage while you have it, because when you don't have it, someone else is going to get up on there. So I always look back, like back in the day with Johnny Cash or Elvis or Little Richard or Jerry Lee Lewis. Sometimes they would be at the same gig back in the 50s and shit. And, you know, Jerry Lee would go off this, or Little Richard would go off the stage, and Jerry Lee would come in and burn his piano down or something. So I just said, I'm going to do things to burn images in people's brain. I'm a big wrestling fan, and I'm a big Jim Morrison fan. I love heavy metal. I'm going to put it all together, and that's who I'm going to be. And I'm just going to take people on a trip, man. That's it. Take them on a trip. And then the music backs it. Some people would think, oh, that's kind of corny or comical or comic book kind of guy. I don't care what people ever said. I just did what I felt was in my heart as a performer, you know, and give everything you've got while you're out there. And that's how it all started, man. We were doing shit in Brandon. I was smashing TVs on the first show. And, you know, we went out and stole a bunch of wood from a job site and made a stage on the side of this guy's house. His mom was out of town. His parents were out of town. He paid us $40 to do the first Nasty Savage gig. I ended up riding a Harley through the crowd to the front, got out on stage, and the cops came. And, you know, after about the third song, the cops came. So what did we do? We played Breaking the Law by Judas Priest right in front of the cops, you know. And then they left, and they said, you know, you're going to go to jail and all this stuff. So as soon as they left, we started playing again, louder than hell, and they came back again. And, you know, so it was like the fire was lit in Brandon, and we burned images for, you know, Obituary, Deicide, Morbid Angel. A lot of those guys were in the crowd back then throughout the next coming year or so. Death. I've got stories of all those guys that were part of our crowd. And then next thing you know, they've created this unbelievable death metal and grind metal, and, you know, and I'm proud of that. Obituary. I was telling the other day, I was at my mom's house where I live, and she goes, Ron, there's two boys at the door, and they want to talk to you. I go, okay. So I walk outside, and they go, hey man, are you Nasty Ronnie? I go, yeah. They go, we want to know how to start a band. I go, really? And you know who those two guys were? Donald and John Tardy.
Oh shit!
I said, man, these guys are smart. They came directly to the person who's a metal marketing dude. So we hit it off that day. We must have hung out for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. We went to Lithia Springs and threw the Frisbee for about 5 hours. And, you know, we got burnt. We smoked some weed and stuff. But, you know, we talked about marketing metal. But I could tell right from the get-go that these were two smart young guys, and I wanted to help them. Another band, Siren, who just did this thing with Chris Jericho, and they went back and did this movie. He funded it and went to Germany with a film crew, and they attribute Ed Aborn came to my house one day because we were in all the magazines and shit. Ed Aborn came, hey man, how did I go? Here's all the addresses to all these magazines. Go for it. And then because I wanted to see if he would do the work to get it done. And they sent their demos out, and they started getting write-ups and stuff like that. And then when they did the documentary, they asked me and David to come over there and do some quotes about, you know, how we were kind of a part of their future, their band stuff. So to me, I really, really appreciated the scene growing, and we helped make a scene because there was no scene. we didn't have bands to open up before us. I mean, we did open up for Savatage. I remember when they were Avatar, but you know, when you have the moment, you got to seize it. But you also have to be giving and help others. And I think I still do that to this day. I help others. I give value. And when you give value, it comes back to you in different ways. Maybe not right at the moment, but maybe 5, 10 years later. You just never know. And so that's kind of the scene was incredible, man. I remember Chuck from Death and Rick and Cam, and there's this guys that did the fanzine Guillotine back in the day, and we were playing London Victory Club. They were right up front, just thrashing their heads on the stage, man. And then a month later, they come out with Manus. I'm like, holy shit, this shit's heavy, you know. And then what Morbid Angel did, and you know, Deicide and Glenn Benton. I didn't even know it, but after Chris Morehouse passed away, no, it was after Fred left. Then Dezo was Indulgence, and then after that, when we did Abstract Reality, we needed another bass player. It was before Chris Morehouse, and I didn't know it, but Glenn Benton tried out to be our bass player for Nasty Savage, and it was pretty incredible because I would never go to those. You know, when we tried out bass players or anybody, because I let the guys do it. They're the musicians, so I was like, whoever you guys pick is fine with me. And I didn't know it was Glenn Benton, so he still busts my balls once in a while and says, yeah, man, I tried out for Nasty Savage, and you guys didn't even take me. You know, and I was like, damn, Glenn, I didn't know it was you. He's got that upside-down cross burning his head and shit. You know, a funny thing about Glenn, he rides a Harley, you know, so I've always wanted to do a feature, a story on him for Born to Ride. And I wanted to get him going, yeah, man, I really like the feel of the wind through my hair, you know, something like that. He's got that burnt cross in his forehead. You know, it's just legendary bands that came from Brandon and Tampa. We put it on the map. There's people coming from all over the country or world would come to Morris Sound Studio to record. You know, I remember so many bands, like, goddamn, one after another, Destruction, Ancient Steel, Creator. Oh God, there's so many that came. And then Scott Barnes was born as one of the heavy metal, editors, or what do you call it, producers. And it was just a great time. Sepultura, so many bands, but it was something that if we created it or had a big part in creating it or a small part in creating it, it was something that got created, you know. And what Mike Browning has done, he's been a fixture of the metal industry all over the world, but coming from the Tampa Bay area through Morbid Angel and, you know, and what he spawned out. And, you know, there's so much originality that came from, I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that. I'm not saying it's because of us or anything like that, but I think because of the shock images and shit that I used to do on stage, I think it put something in people's brains that we have to be extreme in our own way, whether it be the music or whatever. And that's how I think it really helped generate a lot of good music that came from the Florida area.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that you touched on the Tampa death metal scene, because it's obvious the impact that you had, but a lot of the, you know, younger generation of death metal people just don't even realize that, you know, you are a key part in a lot of the history. You know, obviously you guys and Savatage were like the two kind of early bands in that area that really influenced a lot of people. Okay, well, I want to try to get to a couple other questions, so let's go with Denny on this one. Also, Alex, I forgot to say, you can mention maybe some of your favorite tracks, but we can get it next time around or something. So let's go with Denny right now.
I got a lot to say about Nasty Savage for multiple reasons. First of all, Nasty Ronnie was my first pen pal ever. Like, you know, like we were talking to Tommy Stewart from Hallows Eve the other day, but in 1984, I received the Nasty Savage sticker and the Wage of Mayhem logo, and we started to like write letters back and forth. And of course, being from Montreal, we knew that we already knew about Nasty Savage. I was just trying to promote the band and try to get people to listen. Then of course the album came out, you know, like Aggression, we right away we started to play some of these songs. We do have like some live recording of us playing like No Sympathy, The Morgue. So shortly after that, it was announced that Nasty Savage was going to play at World War III. Huge festival in Montreal. Nasty Savage, Possessed, Destruction, Celtic Frost, and Voivod. So
What a show.
not only what a show, but like I you know, if there's anybody here in this panel that can explain what a like Nasty Savage performance is, dude, Nasty Ronnie was on fire that night, and we were completely blown away because so we got to meet the guys like you know, and like I made like lifetime friends at that show, like Schmear, Mike from Destruction, like Tom Warrior, Martinine, and Reed St. Mark, and Nasty Ronnie, Ben, you know, David, all those guys, like they were all staying at a hotel, all of them in the same hotel in Montreal. And that's where I met Debbie Abono, amazing lady, you know, of the metal world. So Nasty Savage come on stage at World War III, and of course on stage there's some TVs and like, you know, there's like kind of like a metal gladiator, and they start playing. It's fucking awesome, right? So Nasty Ronnie takes like one of the smaller TV, and back then there's no flat screen, right? Those are like huge TVs, and he takes the one of the smaller TV, throws it in the air, goes right in his head. He falls down, and we're like, okay, you know, that's a smaller TV, right? So, you know, maybe I could do that. So then he goes, takes a bigger TV, throws it in the air, and then like gets it in the head, almost knocked him out. Like I remember like Dave like and Ben look at him like, hey, are you okay, man? Then he kind of like stood up. Then he takes a freaking gigantic TV and he throws it in the air. It kind of like knocks him out. The glass breaks. He's like rolling in the glass. He's got like these like 2-3 inches pieces of glass in his back. So we're like, wow, that guy is freaking crazy. That's awesome. Then he takes that gladiator doll and he starts banging it on his head like repeatedly, like, and you know, like we're like, oh, okay, like, and he's bleeding and like just like he said, mayhem on stage, right? So he comes off stage and like I actually help him out, like get some of the piece of glasses off his back, like so. This is how we used to do it. Like we used to take like you know, vice grips or like pliers and remove these pieces of glass. Then he would take rubbing alcohol and pour it over his body to clean it all up. Like imagine how much that shit would have burned. and I look at that little gladiator doll, and you know, like from far away, it didn't look, but it's like super thick metal, and he's just like, so he has a gash in his forehead. He's like bleeding everywhere. We kind of like put rubbing alcohol over him, and then he puts like a huge like black long leather jacket, and that's it. That's how he fixed himself. So amazing night, you know, and like the only other story I want to say is that, and I don't want to incriminate anybody, but I got to say it because it's funny. So we're I don't know, I'm like 18, 19 years old back then, and so I think Nasty Ronnie might be like 23, 24 maybe. So we all go back to the hotel. We don't know what's happening in there. We're like imagining, but then Tom Warrior like says like, holy shit, I wish I was Nasty Ronnie right now. So anyway, that's my nasty side. Like, nice to see you, Ronnie, man. Like, you're an awesome dude. I met you like 35 years ago or so, and I was not gonna miss this episode. Nasty Savage was a great band, still is a great band, and you know, like it did help me as a guitar player, as a music lover. So we'll go talk about my favorite song later. But anyway, this is my Nasty Savage story.
It was so important to me to reach out to fans that took the time to write to us or to send $5 for a demo tape. And because everybody was trading tapes back then. So I was thinking because I'm a marketing guy, I knew every headbanger fan had a bunch of other headbanging fans that they all hung out with and headbanged and thrashed and go to shows. So I knew that if I would send something besides just a demo tape and try to make it personal and really feel it, because that's what I wanted to do, but I knew that they would tell all their friends and they would end up saying, shit, I want that same stuff. So they would end up, sending stuff to, sending money or whatever to buy a demo. So it probably helped sales as well. But, you got to be true to the fans. And we had a chance to meet guys like that. And, it just made it so much more real. And here we are 35 years later, man. And, and I've heard some of the covers that you guys did. It was killer, and to reminisce back about the controlled violence on stage. Was it real or did it look real? Did I really hurt myself or did it look like I hurt? It was real blood. And when you said I was on fire, I really was, because it caught my hair on fire with the candelabras too during the show. So yeah, World War III was a great show because the bands that were there and everybody just came together. Matter of fact, we've been talking about trying to do a World War III #2, the same bands again. So if anybody out there could try to help put that together, that would be awesome.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be
and I have to say, Denny's story is true, because I did hear the same story from Jeff Pizzaro when I asked him about World War III. That was one of the stories that he told me about Nasty Savage. So
yeah, that's a legendary show.
You got to speak the truth.
Steve, I guess
I got a question for you, Ronnie. I mean, with the stage show, it was very theatrical, and it was the blood and the violence, and I know you're a wrestling fan, and part of that with the Crimson Mask and everything was very part of the pro wrestling that I grew up with, and I was wondering what your connection was and how you got into pro wrestling. You did pro wrestler for a little while too, right?
Well, and I have my mom with me, and I always tell this story that championship wrestling from Florida in the 70s was some of the best wrestling ever. When I moved to Florida from New York, I got turned on to it about 10 years old, and I started watching it. And then Saturday night, it came on at 7 p.m. My friends wouldn't come pick me up to go out party until 8 o'clock when wrestling was over, because I'd watch it with my mom, and so it burned images in my brain. And there was a guy named Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, and he was a son of a plumber, he was just like the common man, and he was American Dream. And I just got into that, the drama. I started seeing how they worked it and how they brought the people around. And I loved it. So then when I got into a band, I'm like I said, it was a mix between pro wrestling meets Slayer meets Jim Morrison meets Alice Cooper or whatever. Yeah. So I was always into wrestling. So I was backstage actually at a Judas Priest show in Lakeland Civic Center, and I had some T-shirts and stuff I was going to give to the band. And then I saw the wrestlers like Kevin Sullivan, the Prince of Darkness, and at the time he was one of my favorite guys. Yeah. So I went up to him. I said, dude, you don't know how much I'm into you guys, and here's some shirts, blah, blah, blah. I want to get into wrestling. I want to work with you guys. And back then, wrestling was still pretty secretive.
Yeah.
Where you just couldn't become a wrestler or get in a wrestling school because you saw an ad on Facebook, And this all happened back in the day before Facebook, before cell phones. Yeah. We were licking stamps, man. And I was taking packages and packages, stacks of packages to the post office. So anyway, I got with those guys, and they said, come to the Sportatorium and we'll talk. So I'm like, okay. So I went there, and they blew me off and said, no, come to the next place. It took me like 3 or 4 times before I really got to talk to him, and then he blew me off then too. So I told him, I said, look, I've got a gig at Ruby's Pub coming up this weekend or next Saturday. Please try to make it. And I never thought they'd show up. and I'm on stage with a sea of mayhem and thrashers and, you know, headbanging, stage dive in a small stage, but it was just like a wave of mayhem. It was unbelievable. And I looked to the left and I saw them come in the door. Kevin Sullivan, the Purple Haze, Mayhaw Singh, and Sir Oliver Humperdinck. And I saw them go back to the back of the wall, and they witnessed this mayhem, and they're performers. So they were, I knew, right, if they saw that and what we commanded on stage, they knew that I knew what the hell I was doing. So the next day he called me, said, "Brother, Nasty, come on, man, come over to," he invited me to his place. So I went there and I said, "What you need to do now, you need to come with me to Vandekars." He's the guy who paints our album covers. And he's got this crazy place in Quail Hollow, and it's got this gargoyle on the roof, and you know that you'll see it. So we went there, and he brought the film crew, and I was on the beginning of pro wrestling from Florida with Nasty Ronnie's. He goes, "I'm with Nasty Ronnie today here at my house of the Prince of Darkness. You know, these are the people I hang out with from Nasty Savage." So right away, I was over with wrestling guys. And with heavy metal, and I was on TV, so I started going to more wrestling shows. I got involved with Boris Malenko's wrestling school, and then it just opened. Next thing you know, I was being a promoter. I was promoting my own shows, and I got an opportunity to work with Eddie Mansfield at Universal Studios, where I co-produced 200 episodes of the IWF Wrestling, and I brought Nasty Ronnie into the same character, and I had the Nasty organization, had a bounty with Blackjack Mulligan. You know, it went on, and I got over because I was in the inner circle of the company, and that's one thing I learned: give value, work your ass off, have your bosses back, and deliver, and you'll always have a team to play on, and you might be one of the top guys on the team, and that's exactly what I did. So it took me right into pro wrestling, and I had some matches, I had gimmick matches, so it was always part of it, and I had that parallel. And when I was doing the Universal stuff, Nasty Savage had ended by then in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. So I was just doing the wrestling. And then, of course, we came back with Nasty Savage and did more shows and reunions here and there. And then we did in 2005, we did the album, which actually Donald Tardy and Donald Tardy was a producer of that. He produced that album with us. And Mark Prater was there, too. He's another engineer. So we did an album, and Chris Jericho was on it. He sang a couple of songs with us. That was Psycho Psycho. And so that's kind of the evolution right there. But the wrestling was something I always wanted to do, and I was able to achieve that by working hard, and kind of things fell in the right place. But I delivered for Kevin Sullivan. And when I finally got him to see Nasty Savage, he understood that I do have something to offer if I got him. Because the next thing he did, he invited me to this big show they're having in Daytona, and he wanted me to bring the flash bombs from Nasty Savage show. Because back then there was no pyrotechnics in wrestling. So I brought him and set him up. We partied down that night, and I was in the Triple Champs cage match. I was part of with Habuda Dean and the Prince of Darkness, and all that with the snakes and shit. Then I got introduced to Luna Vachon, which Locke and Luna were on Triple X with me, and we toured, and I started to manage them, and so the mayhem just continued. Then I started bringing Luna on stage with Nasty Savage, and so much cool stuff happened. By following a dream. You only live once, man. You really gotta make shit happen if you can.
Dude, that's fucking priceless. I love all that. I had Luna in my record shop in the 90s, God bless her and rest in peace. And she was such a great personality and such a great person. Her and Gangrel did an in-store with me. And around that time, I guess I got one or two more stories before I throw this back around the room here, because there's a lot of people waiting to talk. I saw you guys at Club Manhattan's. I believe you were playing with Hallows Eve, back in the 80s. And then I got to catch you in the 90s at the Chance Theater, and you were on a package with DRI and I believe Sick of It All. And
was that Poughkeepsie?
Yeah. And
that was the Poughkeepsie show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were heckling you. I don't know if you can see me, but those hardcore kids were all like doing this with like how they were like making fun of headbangers, and you were doing like wrestling moves on stage, and you were calling them up, come on up here. It was a really memorable show in my mind.
Well, you know what? That was one of my most memorable shows because we were so, we were playing with, first off, it started out, the first band was Sick of It All, total straight edge, and they're great guys. And then it was Nasty Savage, long-haired, heavy metal guys. And then the third band, of course, was DRI. So DRI was at their crossover album where they were crossing over. So they pissed off a lot of people at that time, with hardcore. And they all kind of came together. And then here we go. One headbanger would go out there with long hair, and then they'd send a couple of skinheads, and then they'd start a fight and all this shit.
Yeah.
And then they started coming out going, fuck you, shooting birds. And to me, I was like, it was pissing me off. So I was like doing flips and landing on the stage on my back and jumping up, going, come on, man, come on up here. I go, that's okay. I remember I said, hey, that's okay, guys. Freedom of speech, fuck face. And I just said, come on up. And I let them get to me a little bit too much that night, but I was having fun, but everybody was kind of freaked out. But actually, we sold more merchandise that night than the whole tour. That whole tour we did, that was the best night we did.
I was supporting you. I think Steve Levin was in the room here with us.
Yeah, I was
at that show too, right, Steve? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a video of that show. It's on VHS. I've been dying to get it changed over because it's got it all on there. Every bit of it.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, Ronnie. I guess
we're gonna get it.
One more question.
I think that you did 3 successive belly flops on the stage. 3 belly flops in a row. You jumped up about 3-4 feet in the air, came right down on your belly on the hardwood floor, and then you challenged all the skinheads. And of course, not one of those guys wanted anything to do with you. Yeah, that was a legendary show.
That was great.
That's awesome.
I gotta admit something. I was all ball of fire and all that shit, but I think later on in that tour we were in New York City, and like a dumbass, I went out there in the pit during DRI, and some guy blindsided me with an elbow right next to my eye, and I was like, it busted my face open, my head open, and I was like, I went into the bathroom and I almost got knocked out, and I said to myself, man, how stupid am I? I could lose my eye over this shit. So it kind of calmed me down a little bit, and it also said, there's always someone else badder than you, especially when they hit you from their blind side. So, yeah, that was a hell of a tour, and when you tour, you want to make it home alive. You want to make it home safe, and you want to take care of business to the promoters and people you work with, because you don't want to be a slacker. So, and then to the fans, you want to give 110 every night, no matter if you're sick or whatever. We did 60 shows in 65 days on that tour, and DRI were first class, man. They took care of us, and they really made sure we had everything we needed. Spike and those guys are just awesome dudes, and the Sick of It All guys were just we're all brothers at the end of that tour for sure.
That's awesome.
It was a great night, and thanks for being on the show for us tonight and giving us all this. And I mean, you did it all. You fronted a great heavy metal band. You did barbed wire matches with Kevin Sullivan. I mean, what else? What else can you do? Amazing.
There's more mayhem coming.
Do you still keep up with pro wrestling nowadays, like the AEW product, or like Chris Jericho? If you're friends with him still, he's big into that. I just watched. They had a floating barbed wire match the other night, and that, and it was pretty cool to see something like that.
Yeah, I think Chris Jericho is one of the smartest guys I've ever known, and he's just a total entrepreneur times 10, and he's very successful, but he's grounded down to earth, and now they've got a lot of money behind him with the guy who owns AEW, and and if they just keep getting more guys from the WWE, it'll legitimize them even more, because I feel some of their talent is just, they're not over enough. They're good, but a lot of the younger wrestlers now, they work too fast in the ring, so they don't have the, like, watch Billy Superstar Graham from the 70s, or Dusty Rhodes, or Who's another one you could really learn from? Hulk Hogan. Watch how he's methodical and slow, and
Yeah.
you don't have to go a million miles an hour to be dramatic and really get people behind a match. A lot of these young guys will get in the ring doing. A lot of these guys will get in the ring doing a high spot, jumping over the turnbuckle, doing 3 flips, and the old timer will go, "Hey man, that's my finish. Why are you doing that now?" It just makes it harder to get yourself over. But there's some great talent out there. I think it goes back to learning where it's come from and how to work slow, but methodical, but tell a story, and storytelling is what wrestling's about. It's like vaudeville. You're putting on a show every night. What we used to do is piss the people off on TV, where you beat up the hero, you get them to come out to the matches, and then at the matches, the bad guys get beat and send the people home happy. So then they keep watching it. But if you piss the people off, they're not going to keep coming back. So it's really knowing how to be the booker and how to book wrestling properly. And that's what I was. I was the booking agent. I helped my boss. I'd give him all these ideas, and then he'd have a meeting, go, "This is what I'm going to do." And I knew he'd take the credit for it, but I didn't care because I was still getting paid for doing what I do.
We'll have to have you come back on one night and just talk about wrestling. I'd love to do that if you would.
Yeah, we could set that up.
Cool.
I did a lot of wrestling.
Yep. Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for that, Steve.
Sorry, I'm gonna let you guys take the room back because there's a bunch of people ready to talk. We're gonna talk about wrestling all night. Everybody
we'll have another wrestling show for you. No problem.
We'll do a wrestling show, Ronnie.
But I'd like to get to
good stuff though. Bringing back the Poughkeepsie gig and the chance, and really appreciate your support and everything you've done for heavy metal as well.
Thank you, man. Hopefully we get to meet up in person one of these days again.
I'm looking forward to it.
Next up, I'd like to get to Mike Browning here. I'm sure he has some interesting stuff being from the Tampa area scene at that time. So take it away, Mike.
All right, how y'all doing tonight?
Hell yeah.
Good. How you doing, Mike?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, and Ronnie, we go back a long, long ways. I saw you guys the first time. I remember hearing about these huge parties you guys had out there in Brandon. And so I went out to one of them, and you guys were playing. Somebody had a trailer, and you had that big stage set up there. And this is when Craig was playing drums for you. And so, yeah, I saw that. I don't know if that was that first show or not, but I don't know if you remember that it was a trailer.
Was it by the lake?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a little bit. That was like our third or fourth gig, I think.
Yeah, but it was
actually. I think Dave was in the band then.
Yeah, I think he was actually. I think you're right. But Craig was still playing drums the first time I saw you guys. But I think that was
might be one on. Was it? Maybe there's one by the lake, but there's one on a place called Williams Road. That might be the one with the big stage and we had too.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly because it was so long ago, but I remember going out there and just being like, "Whoa, this is just totally crazy!" And the crowds out there were great. And then of course, you had the Brandon pub, which really started, when you guys really started doing a lot of shows and side streets. I remember going to side streets when you had Luna and another girl wrestler up on stage.
Yeah, Locke and Luna.
Yeah, and that was crazy. And the London Victory Club and places. And probably every show I went to back then, since I was in my 20s, I weighed like 135 pounds. You used to pick me up and throw me into the crowd every show.
I always look for the smaller guys.
He'd probably be like, "Hey, Mike, come here." And I'd go up there and he'd pick me up over his head and actually throw me into the audience. It was awesome. But we did that like 5 or 6 times at some of your shows. It was awesome. So, I have great memories from, the Ruby pub days, everything back then. And, I got to see it all get started and we started playing shows. We never did play at Ruby's, but we did the side streets thing. Actually with the Massacre, it was. So that was pretty cool. And, I remember all the old stuff. And before I was even really doing any shows with Morbid Angel out, You know, I think Side Streets was one of our first kind of bigger shows, I would say, because it was packed. So, but yeah, the Brandon scene was huge. It was actually bigger than the Tampa scene in the beginning. So yeah, I remember all that stuff.
Amazing times.
Yeah, definitely. And Savatage, when they were Avatar, seeing them in a parking lot called, you know, like a skating rink over in St. Clearwater, I think it was, off of 19 there, when they were still called Avatar. That was like pretty amazing. It was just seeing that stuff, you know, before we were just doing a few little parties and stuff back then. So you guys were definitely out there doing it before we started doing bigger shows ourselves. And it was awesome just to see that stuff. And I was like, man, you know, this is really starting to open up and become something, you know, because it wasn't called death metal. It was, I don't know, it was just metal back then. Everything was metal. And if you weren't metal, you were a poser, and that was about it.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, one thing that happened with Nasty Savage that really helped us is MTV just came on the air. Everybody was watching it, no matter what was on. They were still watching MTV. And there was this local jewelry store called Shalimar that asked me to do this commercial. And me and Fred and another chick were modeling stuff, right? Modeling clothes. And at the end, the guy goes, hey, and he was he was like Middle Eastern guy, Jay. He goes, hey, Ron. He goes, I would like you to say something at the end of this commercial. So I said, I go, okay. So I grabbed the samurai sword off the wall and I put it up to my face. I go, this is Nasty Ronnie from Nasty Savage. I get all my studs and leather at Shalimar. And I swear to God, I swear to God, they must have played that 30 times, 40 times a day on MTV. And I swear everybody saw that. So it was something that really helped Nasty Savage, I think, because everyone was watching MTV. We're trying to find that commercial, man, because it's a gasser.
Yeah, I've seen that somewhere, that commercial. That's awesome.
I definitely remember.
But, you know, Mike Browning, a guy like Mike, you know, what he's accomplished in music and still writing awesome stuff. We just played together. It was so much fun to be with those guys in Peru or Chile. We played together in Santiago, Chile at the Metal Fest, you know, and how cool was that, Mike, that we were able to share that together, you know? I mean, I really enjoyed that time.
Yeah, that was
in
last
2019.
year. Yeah, just in 2019.
Yeah.
Over the summer, we all flew there together. Did the shows together. It was we had a great time. We all hung out for like 5 days straight, you know, while we were there, coming back, and just a lot of partying and having fun. And it was just like the old times, really, kind of. And I don't know if you remember that we did the LA Strike Fest with you guys too. We flew out to Los Angeles, and that was another
an amazing show.
Yeah, that was sold out. It was really good. That was a 2-night show. And you guys played Friday, played Saturday. That was awesome too. That was really good. So yeah, we've actually, you know, just the last couple of years we got to do 2 really big festival type shows with Nasty Savage, and we, you know, flew on the planes together and just had a blast.
Yeah, I mean, you got to respect that so much, and that we're able to share those moments like that. And you know, it's a small world, man. It really is.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
Yeah, it's totally awesome, for sure. Would it be just amazing to, you know, do some shows at Nasty Savage? That would just be a dream come true, really, you know? But, okay, well, I guess next up we'll go with Ed Farshtey. He's been waiting patiently here for a while.
Ed's the guy that can book that show, you know.
Ed can book that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got the Orange County Fairgrounds there. Well, let's have a big festival.
Fuck yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, so my history.
Backyard, even.
I'll do it anywhere.
Absolutely. That's definitely going down this summer.
Cool. Yeah, so my history of Nasty Savage goes back to the demo. Just like Dennis mentioned, Ronnie was one of my first pen pals. Back in the day, I started reading, you know, this was early 1984. Started reading about Nasty Savage in whatever magazines I could pick up about underground metal, and the imagery, the early picture, the logo sounded great. So I wrote him. Ronnie wrote me right back. I ordered the demo. I got the Wage of Mayhem demo. That's still probably my favorite Nasty Savage release. I ordered the comic books from him. I got an old Nasty Savage t-shirt. And we corresponded for a while, going probably about maybe 6 months to a year. We were writing back and forth. I wish I still had those letters in the comic books, but I don't. Still have the t-shirt and the demo, though. Then I saw you guys back at Streets. I think it was either 89 or 90. And that was an absolutely amazing show. That would have been on Penetration Point. And that was just...
Where was it?
That was at Streets in New Rochelle.
Oh, okay.
I
So
forget,
that's
I don't know
New
what
York?
tour you on.
Maybe the
Was
DRI
that New
sick of
York?
it all, maybe.
It might have been a DRI
Newer-
tour.
Yeah.
Wait, where's New Rochelle? New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like just north of Manhattan.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you a quick story because we went to New York. We played L'Amour's and Slayer was there, and we played with Slayer and Hallows Eve, so it had to be early on. And Billy Milano, I guess, was there from MOD, and he did an interview after that in Metal Forces, and they said something about him, and then he brought me into it out of nowhere. He goes, "Yeah, I'm not a fake motherfucker like Nasty Ronnie who breaks fake TV sets, and he's a fake." He goes, "I could kick his ass in 10 seconds." He said that, right? So the dudes in Metal Forces, of course, come right to me, goes, "Hey, look what Billy Milano said." I'm like, "Oh, really?" I said, okay. I go, "We'll see if I ever run into him. We'll see what happens." So we were playing that gig in New York with Hallows Eve. We played CBGB's and somewhere else, and it might have been New Jersey. I'm on stage, and I looked out, and I see Billy Milano walking around, man. I'm like, "Oh, shit, he's in the house." So as soon as we were done, I was watching him, and I was watching him, and I was watching him. And I watched him go into the bathroom. So I followed him in there. He was taking a leak, and I pushed his head against the wall from behind while he was taking the leak, and I had his head against there. He's like, I go, "Hey, push," and I pushed him back. I said, "Hey, Billy, it's Nasty Ronnie," and I brought my stopwatch. He goes, "Oh, man." He goes, "Dude, I was having a real hard time. My dad just died, and I didn't really mean that." I go, "Well, I'm right here, man, if you want to settle it." And Richard, our bass player, is in the bathroom with me, and a couple of guys from Nuclear Assault. They witnessed this shit. And then it was just so cool that we didn't have to fight, but I was ready, and he backed down, and we became friends after that. But, you know, we actually took some pictures together in that bathroom right after that, and we became friends on Facebook. So isn't that cool how things happen?
Nice.
Yeah, he's a big motherfucker, but I didn't care. I said, "I'm a big motherfucker. Let's go right now. I got my stopwatch." Isn't that funny? You know, Billy Milano, you know, he's a bad dude.
That might have been it. That might have been at Club Manhattan's, I think.
You know, I don't remember where, but it was somewhere with Hallows Eve, and you know, we were on that tour.
Yeah,
DRI wasn't on that tour.
No, yeah, I saw the Hallows Eve and Nasty Savage tour at Club Manhattan, which is down in Spring Valley, down just above the city.
Yeah, that might have been it, because there's only like 3 shows we did together on that tour.
I kind of remember Billy Milano being in the audience there. Hazily, you know, it's so
he was
long
he was at some of those upstate New York shows. I think he was from like northern New Jersey, so sometimes you go to Spring Valley. So
Spring Valley was right there, right in the border, right by Paramus and stuff there. Yep.
Yeah.
It was funny though. I spotted him, you know, and then I was dogging him. I was like bird dogging him. I was like, damn. Matter of fact, when we were at CBGB's, I got a telegram from the owner. He goes, "Hey, you got a telegram?" I go, "A telegram?" And I go to it, and it's from Wendy O. Williams. And she says, "Hey, Ron, sorry I can't make CBGB's tonight, but I'll see you tomorrow at L'Amour." So this might have been when Billy saw us at L'Amour, and later on we got together with the DRI tour. That's it. So I get to L'Amour, and Wendy was there, right? But at first she's not there yet. We do our show, and I asked Slayer, I go, because we had this dressing room downstairs without a shower. I was all dirty and glass and shit, blood. And I go, hey man, do you think I could take a shower in your shower? They go, hell no. They go, hell no, you can't take a shower in here. They're like really dicks, you know. I'm like, oh, okay. Sorry. So as soon as I went on stage, I went in their dressing room, took a shower, and then Wendy-O came in, and that's where I got to see her in their dressing room. So we just hung out for about an hour, and then they were done on stage and came in the dressing room, and I'm in their dressing room with a towel on and with Wendy-O, and they're like, oh my God, Wendy-O Williams. And she goes, yeah, later, guys. I'm with Nasty Ronnie. And we walked out of there. It's funny. But Tom Araya and I became friends after that. You know, it's just it just happened to be that kind of thing that night.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anything else, Ed?
That's it for sure. I guess we'll get to the songs later.
Yeah, I guess let's go around one more time, talk about the songs and stuff. But yeah, Steven, you got a question for Nasty?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be here with all you legends. Hope you guys are all doing well. Much like Ed, Ed, happy belated birthday.
Thanks.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday, Ed. I'm sorry.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
happy birthday, Ed.
Much like Ed, my first experience with Nasty Savage was with Wage of Mayhem demo, which will always be my favorite. I still listen to it pretty regularly. 1984, it stayed in my tape deck for that whole entire summer, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just something, it's a very much a timeless piece. And I also wrote to you and got the Wage of Mayhem magazine #1 and 2, which was signed by the whole band, which was really cool. And I think each time I got an 8x10 of a different member. I think once I got a picture of you, and I think once I got a picture of David Alston. But so, you know, that was really cool. I was also going to mention the Poughkeepsie show, which Steve had already mentioned. But the funny thing is that the show at Lemore's came up, and me and my old friend Gary D, we were hanging out outside at that Lemore show, and guy comes out, and it was Ben Meyer. And Ben Meyer approaches us, and he says, hey, guys, how you doing? And he introduced himself, and he gave us Nasty Savage pins, which was really cool. We put them right on our denim jackets right away. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing was, you know, we asked him about the tour and everything. He said, he goes, Slayer are a bunch of dicks. He said, they treat us like shit. So, you know, that just reemphasizes what you said. And the funny thing is I was just talking to my wife about that earlier tonight. And that story will always stick with me. And Ben was just the nicest guy. And I got to meet most of you guys at one time or another. Curtis at one time, and then as I recall, Curtis was in an accident at some point. Did something happen with him? A car accident?
Well, Curtis, actually, you know what? Curtis was a cab driver, right? And one night, some guy was giving him a real hard time in his cab at night in Tampa, and he ended up pulling his gun and had to shoot the guy, and the guy fucking died. Oh, and he was like. Yeah, he actually shot him, got away. I don't want to say he got away with murder, but he killed the guy. The guy tried to rob him or something, and he was like notorious Curtis Beeson, you know. And he'd always like carry his pistol around with us. There's some pictures of him. I never even noticed a group shot of us where he's got his pistol in his waistband, and you can see it. But later on, Curtis had a brain tumor, and it was really a bad scene, but he got it operated on, and, you know, he ended up surviving it, but we were really scared. It was after he was already out of the band and stuff. So we kind of came back together, and then we did a big benefit concert with Curtis where all of like Tampa Bay metal scene came out to support it. It was unbelievable. We raised a bunch of money for them and for him. And it was just a blessing that everybody came out and supported it. You know, I can't even remember all the bands.
We played that one too. When I was in After Death, we did that one with you guys.
Yep, I remember that. Mike was there, and I mean, Deicide. There was dudes from all the bands, and Chris Jericho came out, brought a bunch of stuff, and it was really good to see that. But, you know, Curtis, he played in a couple of bands after that. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him in quite a while now, but we've lost track with some of the guys, but their current band is really strong. We got some great guys, and we're actually having the best time ever the guys we're jamming with right now. It's me and Dave, and Jim Coker's on the drums. Scotty Carino is the bass player, who played with Death a little bit, and he was also in Fester. And then Pete Sykes. Pete is unbelievable guitarist, and David just loves jamming with him. And he's coming up with some killer riffs for the next. We might be putting out an album, who knows? But we're putting together about 4 or 5 songs, and they got some cool titles and shit. And so we're real happy with where we're at right now. But the demo is it's really great to hear these stories, because you start out and you try to do something, but to me it was always about the people and reaching back out to someone. If they wrote to you, you just want to make people's day. And if you got the opportunity, even today, man, make someone's day, make them happy, give some value. And that's what we always tried to do. And it's always great to hear these stories, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I always felt like you guys were just really, very friendly, open. You come right up to us. I mean, I used to see all the bands back in the day, like Slayer and those guys. And sometimes those guys, you'd have to almost fight to talk to them. Like the guys in Exodus, not at all. They were always looking for drugs and stuff like that back in the day. I can still remember Gary, just some funny stories with him. But, guys like Slayer, sometimes they just acted like they really could care less. They didn't really want to talk to you. And, you guys were always so friendly and everything. And it was always appreciated. And, just hearing these stories, it's just great. And big Kevin Sullivan fan also. There he is.
Yeah, he was awesome. But, Slayer, coming from California, it was that West Coast thing, maybe because we're from Florida, we're just trying to be down with the people, where those guys are a little more conceited or something, or they're so heavy that they can't talk to anybody, but we were always down with the people, down with the fans, because that's who we were all about, is the fans.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's nice to hear, and it's definitely appreciated.
Yeah, we all definitely appreciate that for sure. I do want to go around one more time, maybe have some final, final questions or thoughts, and just name maybe some tracks that you're into with Nasty Savage. I mean, for me, it's super difficult because really the whole first album is just amazing, flawless, and really the first 3 for me were great. But even I even checked out today the Psycho album. That has a lot of great stuff on it too. But I mean, I like songs like was it You Snooze You Lose? That's a good one, and Abstract Reality, great one, Hypnotic Trance is great. Stab in the Back. I mean, it just I was just refreshing myself on some of these. I mean, I knew the first 2 albums really well, but kind of refreshing myself on some stuff, and I'm just like, okay, this is my favorite. This next one's my favorite. I can't even pick, because they're just all so good, and they all have a distinctive vibe that is distinctively Nasty Savage. It's like you guys just kind of made your own niche, like the songs between your vocal style and the riffing style and the drumming, it just sounds like Nasty Savage. I mean, it's kind of thrash, it's kind of power metal, but it's really just Nasty Savage. I think that's really the only way to describe it. And it's made a super big impact on me, as a musician, a songwriter, and just as a metal fan. It gave me a lot of happiness back in the early days. I mean, songs like Metal Nights, when you're a young kid hearing stuff like that, just one of those moments where you just feel proud to be metal,
Well, we always just we never really tried to sound like anybody. And that was one thing when you start a band and you're thinking, oh, we're going to be a cover band, we're going to get 4 sets a night, we're going to get paid. I said, you know what? Screw that shit. I can't sound like Rob Halford and all this shit. So let's just do our own thing. And that's what we did. We created it. And I got to hand it to the guys who wrote those songs, David and Ben and Fred, and every album, we had a different bass player. So, I mean, that might have helped to get it going. But when you get to Penetration Point, I think the guys started messing with me, because they were like, see if you could sing to this, like it was that some of that music is so off the wall. You know, I'm like,
Super
damn,
technical.
how am I going to sing the Welcome Wagon or some of those songs, Distorted Fanatic? You know, they were almost like, I think, messing with me to say, let's see what he can do with this.
Yeah, well, I think that penetration point's a great one. I think, but I'm really a fan of all the stuff. I just love that guitar duel, the way that those rhythms are, and you could just tell a lot of other people do because you listen to any of the early Death albums, even later Death albums, you hear those same harmonies that are on Nasty Savage album. You hear those same kind of the tone, the harmonies or whatever that they use. But anyway, yeah, trying to get moving on this so we don't keep everyone too late. Let's go with Alex and just name maybe some tracks you like and maybe some final thoughts or questions.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll just, like you were touching on Metal Nights, and that was kind of like an anthem for me and my buddies, when that record came out, and, Posers Will Die, and,
Yes.
and yeah, I mean, that was just like, that was kind of like a soundtrack to a period of my life. And,
Yeah, me too.
and I remember that the first, I didn't get, unfortunately, I didn't get to see you guys when you guys played up in New York at like the Mars and stuff, at 85, 86. But I didn't see you guys, I think, until 89. And I was at the Trocadero in Philadelphia with DRI and Sick of It All. And that was a big deal for me because it was to finally see Nasty Savage. I'll leave a few tracks, I guess. Leave it with this, Metal Nights, Stabbed in the Back, amazing song, amazing opening song. I mean, I remember just like first getting that record, when it came out and hearing that beginning, like that scream in the beginning, and then that riff. It was just like, and then that middle riff, and it was just, and the vocals too. On that record, it seemed like you were taking, you were kind of experimenting a bit. There was like super aggressive stuff and a lot of like crazy harmonies and some of that stuff. It just didn't even sound, it sounded like otherworldly sounding. And there's, Metal Nights, Stabbed in the Back, off the demo, Witch's Sabbath, another fucking great song.
Oh, The Morgue, I had to say too. That's a great one.
Yeah, The Morgue, No Sympathy, Dungeons of Pleasure. I can go on and on. I mean, but all I can say is, Ronnie, is just, thank you for the music. Thank you for the influence. You guys were a big influence on my life. And, it was a big part of shaping what I do. Same thing with Mike too. It's just like, Abominations and Desolations was a huge thing, it made a huge impact on me. The
Incubus demo,
stuff like that was just like that was just like, oh, this is what I'm looking for, and what I'm trying to do. And but it's just like I said, I can go on and on, but just thank you for the music, and
man, I really appreciate it.
Guys keep
that.
going,
we hope to, and each record, I think I did try to change because, like I said earlier, once you put that thing to rest, it's there forever on a record or a CD or whatever, and you can't go back. So we wish. Oh man, I wish I could redo that. I wish I could redo that track, but you can't.
Yeah.
So I did try to get a little more aggressive because then we had the influence of more death metal and heavy stuff, and here I'm thinking back to some of the others. So we try to be true to what's in your heart, but we tried to progress and change, and I didn't have that big octave voice that like King Diamond or somebody, though I did hit some high notes, but I just tried to find my groove, and I'm still trying to find that. And the other day, Dave was going, man, you need to just go back to the old style instead of trying to sound so heavy. We got this song called Aztec Elegance that we're doing. It's pretty crazy.
Awesome.
Awesome. And I guess Denny, will go to you next.
Like similar to Alex, I could name like pretty much every song of Nasty Savage that I like. But I think for us, like Nasty Savage had really a specific sound. And I think it's the way that Ben and David, the way that they were writing their riff, there's a hook, there's a kind of like a groove to the way that the music sound. And I remember like when I met Ben and David, they were telling me that one of their one of their trick to get that sound is they would like boil their strings. So when their strings were done and like filled with like crap, they would put like a big pot on the stove, and they would like boil them. They would boil their strings and then put it back on their guitars, and that's how they were getting that kind of like tone. So like we spent a lot of times talking about guitars and stuff with those guys. Like favorite song, definitely No Sympathy, Gladiator, The Morgue, Triple X, Stab in the Back. But my all-time favorite Nasty Savage record, and might not be like a popular decision, it's Abstract Reality.
Yeah.
Right.
They were getting a little bit more progressive. It was a little bit more complex, and I don't know. Like I played that EP like so much, you can pretty much see through it. But like it's like A Romantic Vertigo, like Unchained Angel. Like there's so many songs on that EP that I don't know. It worked for me. It was
great.
metal. It was metal, a little bit of progressive. And I felt like as songwriters, they were like evolving. Anyway, that's Nasty Savage, such a big part of like who we were as musicians, and definitely like one of the big bands for us. So thank you, Ronnie, for the way you were singing these songs. Like for you, you're saying you were no Rob Alford. Well, fuck that shit. Like Rob Alford is Rob Alford, and for us, Nasty Ronnie is Nasty Ronnie.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, man, I appreciate that, and you're right that it started. The progression from Abstract Reality went right into the Penetration Point, and it got even. See, it was getting weirder and more complex, and they were like, "What can we do now?" And it was just they were just getting more and more to extreme musical styles, and I was always intrigued with their music and styles because I swear I had nothing to do with that. All I would get is like I would get the songs after they wrote it, and Dave would say, "Sing here, stop, sing." Then he'd help me out with that stuff, and then sometimes they'd leave me some creativity, but most of the time it was here's where you sing, here's where you don't, here's where you sing, here's where you don't. And we just kind of got into that rhythm, and I owe it all to those guys. And those guys it was a good unit. And you got to be a good unit. You got to take care of business. And also, guys, in the studio, we never looked at the studio as the place to go party. And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but when we went into the studio, say Metal Blade would give us $15,000 to do an album, we'd record it for $9,000 or $8,000 and keep the rest. Of course, it came back out of royalties. I think we're still paying for them, but at least we got some cash up front. We always tried to be professional as we could, to take care of business.
Awesome. That's the smart way to be about it. You don't want to just waste the money because you can. I mean,
we're going to be coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go with Mike on your final thoughts and any tracks that maybe are standouts to you.
Okay.
Well, I have to say, since I was there from the beginning, and probably saw them almost every show that they did in the beginning.
Go on then, because
in the clubs. It was the memories from all that stuff since I was actually there. I had to say stuff like The Morgue, Witches Sabbath and Gladiator, of course, seeing him pull off those highs in Gladiator and just smashing things and going totally insane. The memories for me were just that the beginning of it all, and because I was there, and it's stuff I'll never forget. It's like burned in my brain, but it's great. And I think the thing with Nasty Savage is that a lot of people didn't really give them enough credit for the musicality that they did have, because there's no band that sounds like you guys. That's one thing for sure. And it just got like more talented and more progressive, not really progressive, but it progressed, and some of the rhythms are just like, where did they come up with this stuff? And I think that you guys never got enough credit for the songwriting. It's like some of that stuff is just amazing, and the guitar work, and I think that the two just Ben and Dave together really had this special thing going, almost like any Priest or Merciful Fate or any band like that had the two great guitar players that just worked off of each other. And to me, that was always the good thing. It was much more than just a show. You guys had the music behind it, and I don't think you ever got enough credit for that. That's one thing that I always thought, that I
agree,
wish
Mike.
I got a lot more credit for the songwriting, because some of that stuff is amazing, and then you had the show to go with it. It was just the total package.
Well said, Mike. Well said.
Yep.
We'll go to Ed Farshtey on his final thoughts and maybe some tracks and stuff.
All right. First off, I want to thank Ronnie.
All together.
I want to thank Ronnie for being a pen pal back in the day. Back in the early 80s, I used to write to fan clubs like Judas Priest and Twisted Sister and stuff, and I'd get merchandise lists back, and I'd order merchandise, which was cool. But Ronnie was one of the first probably the first band member, especially of a demo band, that wrote me back, took the time, wrote me letters, sent me flyers, stickers, all kinds of stuff. And I felt, an attachment to the band because of that, as opposed to just getting a merchandise list. That's why I ordered whatever I could back then, and kept correspondence with him for a while. As far as a favorite album, I love them all. First album, of course, is great. The demo will always be my favorite. But as far as albums, Penetration Point is probably my favorite album. I loved what you guys became at that point. It was heavier, it was faster, it was more intense, yet still retaining that Nasty Savage sound and style. All-time favorite song is still Witch's Sabbath. And I don't know if you got sound yet, Ronnie, if you can answer this, but I always wanted to know why you never re-recorded Witch's Sabbath. And I guess you don't have sound yet.
He's working on
Do you have sound now, Ronnie?
There was a sighting.
We had a picture even for a minute.
No, I know. We actually seen you for a moment, so we're getting somewhere. No?
It's like pro wrestling where it goes, the lights go out.
No, nothing.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, and I agree about Witch's Sabbath. I wondered.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
we can-
Awesome.
you
Yeah, we
are.
got you. Awesome.
All right.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, well, Ed had a question for you, so I guess just ask him again.
Yeah, Ronnie, I don't know if you heard what I said. I was talking about the demo and the albums. Penetration Point was my favorite album, although the demo is still my ultimate favorite Nasty Savage release. And my favorite song is Witch's Sabbath. And I always wanted to know why you never re-recorded Witch's Sabbath.
We just never got around to it. It's when you have all those different songs, it's like having children. You love them all, but you just can't. David Allen Coe told me that one time when I interviewed him. He goes, "Well, I love all my kids, and I like my music. So I love all my songs. So, it's just one of those things we never did."
That's understandable.
And yeah. Like Triple X we did, Savage Desire we did. Sometimes it's best to leave it like it is too, and in a case like that,
No problem with that. I love this.
It's that song actually, Fred wrote it, and he wrote it with I forget what the title was, but it was a whole different song, and I just took his words out and put mine in, and then wrote Witch's Sabbath. I wanted to write something like witchy and heavy and like evil, and then I was doing research in these fucking books and stuff, and I'm like, Witch's Sabbath, man, that's what it is, and it just was that right time to do that song like that. So it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of weird.
Nice.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go with Steve last. Oh, do we go with you, Steve? We didn't go with
I don't know.
yet.
I usually interrupt anyhow. I think I had jumped in earlier, but yeah, I don't know. Everybody's pretty much echoed what I would have said now. Anyhow, I mean, XXX I thought was always one of the highlights of the live shows, and I love Dungeon of Pleasure. I don't think anyone's mentioned that one.
Yeah.
That's another great song.
Instigator. And Unchained Angel is another one I don't think people have mentioned. Of course, Gladiator we've all talked about. So yeah, pretty much, And I mean, it's very interesting. Ronnie, thanks for giving us your time tonight. I know we kept you probably a little later than you may have expected, but usually I put this as it's almost like if we all got together in a bar and had dinner and we're talking about music, it's pretty much how this works out. If you got some good friends and some, people, it's just kind of works out this way. And I hope you enjoyed being on the episode.
Well, to me, it's really special because all you guys are, not only great musicians in what you do, but you're students of the game. And for you to respect what we've done and, to take the time to do this, it means a lot to me. So anything I could do to make it better for you guys are enjoyable and share and, cherish these moments together that we have because we're together right now, man. And we can't take this time back. We shared something tonight, guys, all of us. And I learned from you guys as much as you learned from me. And I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, seriously. And, to be with Mike, I respect Mike so much and for everything he does. But one thing about Mike, he's got a killer toy collection and he's a smart toy buyer. And I always see him at all the killer shows and stuff. So it's just, he's an amazing dude, and he's just like, you can like look in the crystal ball or something and there's Mike in there, but all you guys have as well. And it's really cool that you guys really took the time to come together. Because I had to push it back an hour and then we were all able, I didn't realize that you had all these guys involved and everything. So for you guys to hang in there and make those calls and get everybody set up, I know how hard that is. And I really appreciate it, guys. Anything I can do for any of y'all, anytime. These guys have my number. So just,
for sure,
you got a project, you got a gig, you want ideas, whatever. Let's keep this going. I'm down.
Awesome. I would like to go with Steve Levin before, just because we didn't get to him.
Yeah, he didn't. And you and Steve and Ronnie could probably talk about toys for hours because Steve has a whole giant basement full of toys right there. I don't know if Ronnie can see it or not.
No, I don't see it. Where do you live?
I live in New York. This is the Rainbow Earthquake Tower. It's 5 feet tall, so it's kind of hard to see. Here's just a little bit of my stuff. It's kind of dark, so.
I mean, I don't see it. My thing. Oh, maybe I do.
You'll see it when we show it.
I'm not seeing on the screen. You guys aren't seeing me now, probably either.
No.
Oh, you'll see it when we.
Anyway,
live.
Last thoughts. My favorite songs, I would say, would love Unchained Angel. Any of the demo songs. It was just pointed out with David and Ben, the guitar tandem. I mean, just magic. I don't even know what else to say. The only two people that really remind me of them in any sort of way would be Denner and Sherman from Merciful Fate, the way that they work together with their time changes. And they're both somewhat different lead styles. So just magic. And your voice, man, it was just the total package, like it was said before. But one thing that I don't think that anybody said anything was about some of your great lyrics. I mean, I just love some of your lyrics. And even like the demo things, like bang your head like a gypsy of sin, and don't worry, mommy, I'll be safe and sound. Pulls me down under the ground, don't worry, mommy, I'll be safe and sound. Like, you just had like such a rhyme, and like your cadence was just really just good stuff. And I just want to say thank you for all the music, and I'll just sum it up with one last word. You are a legend, man. So,
wow,
really appreciate it, man.
That's pretty heavy, and bringing up the lyrics is cool too, because you're singing songs to please myself. There's a word, one of the songs are singing songs to please myself. All at once things seem so small. Your grief and mine must intertwine. Indulgence, and that just came to mind at this moment. But you got to write your lyrics for yourself. And when you do that, you can sing them better because they feel like, in the beginning, I was writing about thunder and lightning and leather and, posers. But as you gradually grew as a musician or a writer, you started writing more about reality of life and inhumanities and how to change the world. Not really change the world, but just like whatever you're thinking. And it's a progression. And the lyrics I'm writing now, it sort of could be poetic, but it's also makes people think, but it's also what's in your heart or in your mind. And it's storytelling. And a lot of mine were paradox as I got into the penetration point where one line could mean many things to other people. So I never really said, this is how it is. I let the people try to decide. And man, maybe some of you guys should go back and read some of those lyrics and try to decipher some of that shit, because it might open your mind from the inside, like we say in No Sympathy. Open your mind from the inside. The clock will keep on ticking because every day the clock's ticking, and we have to make the most out of our life, and if you're writing a song, whatever you're doing, the clock will keep on ticking. So a lot of that shit in these songs, like penetration point, live the night to wake up this morning. I live the night to wake up this morning. Weapons of thought from the clouds of unknowing, naked target on the beam of life. Your personality comes with the sunlight. That means every day you talk to people and they have different personalities. They're not real people. They're fake, so I'm throwing these different jabs out there, and you kind of pick them off the wall and figure out what they're about and what exactly, is it real, is it not real, is it I'm talking about myself or you, or look in the mirror shit, and it's sort of like the Twilight Zone. And that's the kind of shit I really wrote. Rod Serling was a big influence in me. And I swear to God, some of the lyrics were right out of the Twilight Zone episodes.
Wow, that's awesome.
I love that shit.
Really
like
cool.
if you watch, I always go, man, someone's going to be watching Twilight Zone and say, there's a lyric from, like, the stone thrower broke the window of his glass house. A thought was search for a scapegoat, a human coin on edge for a time, having a fallout all of his own. That's irrational.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wrote that a lot about our manager, which was Curtis's dad. He fucked us up in a lot of ways, and it was really pissing me off. And there's a backwards message at the end of that song that I put in there just for him. There's a lot of different things in there. Nothing personal against Curtis, but we got fucked on a lot of stuff, guys, and I'm sure everybody has. But Mike brought up a good point. We probably didn't get what we deserved or the credit we deserved. We never made it really like we wanted to. Everybody thinks they're going to be a rock star, but I think we did have potential, but it just fell through our hands, because the clock will keep on ticking, and it ticked right by. And now we're sitting here at almost 60 years old going, fuck. The clock is keep on ticking on us all, brothers.
We're still keeping at it though. And
yeah, but it's just how life is. Love your family, love your kids, and do the best you can every day, man. That's all we can do. And I think as long as we did that, when it's our last day, at least we can say we did our best. And I don't want to be on my deathbed and say, damn, I should have spent more time in the office. I should have spent more time with my family and friends and enjoying life,
Mm-hmm.
I agree 100%.
Ronnie, though, but you guys were a success, because I think the most important thing is inspiration. And when you inspire people to be creative, what's a better thing than that? It's not about, how many records are sold or anything like that. It's just about being genuine and inspiring, for me as a player, that's the most complimentary thing I can get from somebody who's been inspired by something I do, or and it's a circle that goes around. Yourself has been a big inspiration on me. Mike's been a big inspiration on me, and I could say that, speak for John too. And that's success. And being real, being genuine. So, in my eyes, in my opinion, you guys were, a huge success,
Yeah, I agree. Nasty Savage, definitely. If it wasn't for Nasty Savage, the music, death metal stuff I play would not be the same. It just wouldn't be, because some of the bands that influenced me besides Nasty Savage were bands that were influenced by Nasty Savage. And who knows what extreme metal would be. without that. You know, it would be a totally different world. So you've definitely made an impact on uh, way more people than even know you made an impact on. I mean, there's a lot of newer generations of people that they don't even know that they're they're influenced by Nasty Savage because they're influenced by bands that were influenced by bands that were influenced by bands of Nasty Savage. So but it's
Yeah.
it's a really for people in my generation especially, it's a very important one of the fundamentals of everything that we do, and we totally appreciate the music. And I want to thank you, Nasty Ronnie, and for everything and for coming here tonight. And I want to say, what's up, goodbye to the cast, Steve, Alex, Denis, Mike, Ed, and Steve. I want to thank you guys for coming out tonight, celebrating the great music of Nasty Savage, and we will see you next time on the Fantasy
Excellent.
Files. See ya.
Cheers, brothers.
You know,
Guys.